Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a World of Tanks review with the M56 Scorpion. Now, this tank is an interesting tank, but it's a good tank nonetheless. I haven't played very many games in it, as you can see, but I do have a fairly good win rate in it so far, and I have had some pretty good games in it so far. As you can see, we're going to go... Okay, well, I'm actually going to throw this down here right now. How I'm going to do these is basically I'm going to have a part 1 and a part 2. If you only want to see basically what the tank is and what it's about, it's part 1, this, or part 2, which is going to be the replay review, showing you how the tank plays. If you just want to watch that, you can, or if you just want to watch this, you can. Just making it easier. Now, we're going to jump right into it and what the tank's all about. Now, it has 820 hit points, which, I mean, you know, nothing special, nothing bad. It's not very heavy, though. It's 7.49 tons. Now, this is like ELC level lightness at tier 7, but it's a lot more flexible than the ELC, I think, personally. Because the ELC has a turret, but it's not very big. This is in a lot of ways like the ELC. This is pretty much a turretless ELC with better gun depression, honestly. And a better gun. But, it has 200 engine power, or horsepower, making it have a very, very good horsepower to ton ratio, which I think is in the area of 26. I'm correct, it is 26.69, which is high, medium, almost light tank area of mobility, really, and how you can climb hills. The gun traverse speed, for me, is what kills it. The 12 degrees a second traverse speed. That is horrible. There are heavy tanks with better traverse speed. Russian heavy tanks. The T-34 has it. The T-29 has a better... that's 18 degrees a second. And I think the T-95 has a 13 degrees a second gun traverse speed. It's actually faster than this. Now, its top speed's good, though. It's 45 kilometers an hour for a tier 7 tank destroyer, which is really, really good. Usually light or small medium tanks have around that. Its traverse speed is very good at 40 degrees a second, and that's really what kind of makes up for the gun traverse. But if you want to stay hidden, I would recommend this, which you do, because you have 1 millimeter of armor everywhere. That's why. It's any gun, any shell will overmatch your armor, and you will be penetrated. The only way that you will not be penetrated is being shot in the gun or in the tracks directly like this. That way it can't penetrate your side. Otherwise, it's going in. After that, we have the gun, which is a very good gun. It has, what is it? I don't think we can, oh yeah, we can bring up the stats. It's a 90 millimeter, sorry. I'm saying a lot, I really don't like that. 7.6 rounds a minute, 219 penetration, and 240 alpha damage, 275 with the heat, 240 yet again, 45 millimeters of penetration with the HE, or high explosive, and 320 damage. Now, I'm pretty sure this is around the average penetration values for a tier 7 tank destroyer, which is impressive considering that this is actually a premium tank, as you will all know, because that's probably why you're watching this, to see if you like it. But its penetration values are really good, considering that most tier 7 tank destroyers, which namely the only other one is the AT-15A, or the AT-15, I forget which one it is, has horrible penetration and a horrible gun, really. It's very accurate, though. .33 bullet dispersion at 100 meters, which is very accurate. The aiming time is good at a 2 seconds aiming time, which I guess is not great, but it's not bad. There are definitely far worse tanks. The gun weight, which doesn't really matter too much because you can't change the gun, is 1,000 kilograms roughly. And you can really afford to take snapshots quite a lot. And if you get hold down, it's very powerful considering it's such a small target. Like, another notably small tank destroyer is the E-25. Not the Yak-Panzer 800, that's very large. And look at the size comparison. Remember, though, this does have a pseudo-turret, I suppose. And it's very small. It is very, very small. And this right here, this little square, doesn't count as a hitbox. You can shoot straight through it as long as the bullet can fit. And it will not damage you. But, however, the E25 is actually very slightly longer but shorter. But it also doesn't have a turret. Though what it does have, though, is armor that can actually bounce a shot occasionally. Not very often, but at very extreme angles, you can bounce a shot. And this, you will not. You do not want to be seen. So I would recommend that your sorry, that was the wrong one. I would recommend that your loadout is this: the medium caliber tank gun rammer, because that's what I put in almost all my tanks, the gun rammer. Binocular telescope. I'll tell you why in a second you want that. And a camo net, because if you use these together, when you're top tier, you will literally can sit in a bush and shoot the tanks that you're shooting at within 100 meters, and they won't see you. It's this has very good camo coefficients. Actually, it has 23 camo coefficient at the front, which is just the same as a Borsig. But the reason why the Borsig is better is because it has a fully traversable turret. Because in this game, when you traverse your turret, you don't lose camo, but when you traverse your whole tank, you do lose camo, which is why you would think the traverse speed makes up for the gun traverse, but it doesn't. Because when you stay hidden, it really kind of falters down. So you have to be at long ranges if you're going to track any targets moving relatively quickly. Now, this thing's view range is absolute garbage for a tank destroyer. 350 meters. There are tier 7, I think the KV-3 has the same, if not better, view range, which is a Russian heavy tank, and that is blind. With my 100% crew in it, which this does come with 100% crew, you get 357, which is really not any better. But with the binocular motherfucker, if I can speak. With the binoculars, you can get 446 meters view range, which I'm pretty sure the cap is 445. I'm not 100%, don't quote me on that, but if you know, leave in the comments. The signal range is good. It's good enough. You're really not going to need much more than that in a tier 7 game, honestly, if that at all. 521 with a 100% crew that you're going to be getting. And this is my normal loadout for my ammunition, which I probably should carry some HE. So I would kind of probably drop 4 of these for 4 HE, maybe 10 of those and 3 HE. That's what I would do personally in case you did reset cap or something. It's better. You have a better chance to reset cap with HE, even though this does have very good penetration. And you can shift around the battlefield. You can really get going. A standard small repair kit, small first aid kit, and almost on all of my premium tanks, tier 5 and up, I have an automatic fire extinguisher because it's definitely worth it. Sometimes I kind of actually forget I'm using I use a manual fire extinguisher because I play premium tanks quite often. And I like automatic fire extinguishers. You really don't have to worry about it when you do catch on fire because it just goes right out immediately within 1 tick of damage. Sometimes not at all. But I'm pretty sure that the manual fire extinguisher actually makes you take 3 ticks of damage before you can actually put it out, because I've had it to where I only took 1 tick of damage, and I pressed 3 and it didn't work until I took a couple ticks of damage. So this is very useful in a lot of situations. You don't catch on fire very often, so I do find it useful, even though it's 20,000 credits. And if you don't really have that much money, or you don't want to spend that much money, wait until a event where they're 10,000 credits or something like that, and buy 2 for 1 basically. It's a easy way to get it. And then these are pretty standard on most tanks, or almost every single tank in the game. You should really have the one, other than maybe tier 1 tanks or tier 2 tanks or something like that. But on a premium tank, you should always have it, tier 1 or 2, regardless. But that I kind of like wraps up this portion for it. But I do want to make a few things that I want to know about this. This is a very good-looking tank, honestly. I think it is. The HD model looks very, very good. You have 10 degrees of gun depression, so by 10 degrees, I mean this barrel will be laying on top of that. And you can use that in so many spots. You can get into so many spots that normal tanks cannot get into. And it changes the way you play a lot. And I suppose I should probably get to this. Would I recommend this tank to everyone? Well, I can 100% say in the NA server, I am a better than average player. Average WNA is around 700 in the NA server, so I am, in fact, a better than average player. I wouldn't say a great player by any means, but I do know some good players, and I have recommended this tank to them. Have they bought it? I don't think so, but I would recommend this tank to pretty much anybody except for people who have just got this game. If you're, Tier 1 and Tier 2, and if you're seeing this video, and you're thinking, man, Tier 8 takes a long time, I don't feel like grinding that, I don't want to go all that way. Honestly, the best thing you can do is get to Tier 5 and then buy a Tier 5 premium tank and learn the game if you really want a premium tank that badly. What I would recommend is probably a preferential matchmaking Tier 5 premium tank if you're going to go what you would call a wallet warrior. Because really, or something like the Valentine 2, it's kind of a steel clubbing tank. You'll learn how to use armor very effectively, and it's preferential matchmaking. It's Tier 4. You'll only ever see a Tier 5. And trust me, if you're thinking, well, I want to get the high tiers, people will get very, very upset, and you really do ruin the game for people when you do that, and you don't know how to play the game. Because there are specific things you have to do. There's a lot. This game is very deceivingly expansive, I suppose. I guess that'd be the best word for it, honestly. There's a lot. This game is deceivingly difficult. There's a lot to this game. And honestly, it'll take the average player somewhere around 5,000 games to really truly learn this game, and that's where you still have room for improvement. I'm at like around 4,500 games right now. And I mean, you'll learn the game eventually. It just takes a while. Some people it takes longer, some people does not. And the people you see, if you have XVM, that have like 1,000 games and 2,000 WNA, well, they're reroll accounts. They made a new account because they wanted to be a better player than they really are. And you'll see that a lot in lower tiers. They're not good players, don't worry. Not really, at least. And the number one thing I would tell you to do is, if you're going to get this game and you're looking at a tank like this, not to get this tank. Get a tank that's more heavily armored, not a bad gun, but a decent gun, and kind of learn how to play a heavy tank, because that is going to be the best entry to this game. Because heavy tanks, while very, very important, as you'll learn that in higher tiers, if you have no heavy tanks versus a bunch of heavy tanks, the team with no heavy tanks are probably going to lose, unless they can really outplay that other team. Your front lines are your heavy tanks. So learning to play a heavy tank before a high tier is very important, because you're very important to your team. Almost every role is kind of important to your team, except for maybe artillery, which really isn't that important, because you can still do good with that artillery, or not. It doesn't really matter. I would not suggest getting this tank. I might do a review on my Panzer V2, which you can't get anymore, but it is a lot like the Valentine 2, which some people might be looking at. I'll be comparing it a lot to that. But this tank is, I wouldn't say it's necessarily noob-friendly. I would say that's more heavily armored tanks. This tank is very, very unforgiving. It's much like the AMX CDC, if some people have it, but without a turret and a lower tier. And less armor, honestly. If someone's going to ram you in this, run. Try to. But you have 12 kilometers an hour reverse speed. It is horrible. It is very bad. It makes getting out of situations very, very difficult, honestly. Getting out of sticky situations is very difficult in this tank. Well, reversing at least. And the best thing you can do is honestly turn and run, because you'll use a lot less time turning around, because reverse speed isn't bad. And running, because you aren't very slow going forward. But this tank plays very good in the right matchup. And I'm going to be showing you a Ace Tanker game in the next part, where a player did not win, but he did very, very good. Because the average WN8 for a tank, for those of you who care, is around the hit points of your vehicle. It's how much damage you do. And that's roughly around, if you do around 820 hit points, I think, of damage through a game, which is only a couple shots, mind you, considering that it has 250 alpha damage, I think, right about, if I would be correct. Very close to being. So, yeah, 240. It's only a couple shots. And this thing does fire decently quickly. It's a 6-second reload rate, or almost 7. It's not bad. Not bad by any means. And I would probably, the better the player, obviously the better they'll do in the tank. But I would recommend this from anybody who is either slightly below average and up. Learning in this tank will help learn, I guess, light tanks, honestly. If somebody who wants to get into light tanks is a good transition from, say, you know, maybe a tank destroyer, honestly. A tank destroyer person who wants to learn how to play light tanks, this is a great start. And obviously, if you're going down the American tank destroyers and you want a tank destroyer, this is very good, though it plays nothing like the American tank destroyers, other than getting into positions where you can use your gun depression and hide your hole as much as you can, and then shooting and backing up as fast as possible, because you do have pretty good accuracy. But other than that, it's nothing like any other American tank destroyer. It's horribly armored. But I think that about concludes our review of looking at this tank and what it's about for this time. So, liked if you liked it. If you didn't like it, you know what to do. And if you didn't like it, please tell me why you didn't like it in the comments. It would help a lot. Now, I will see you guys in part 2. If not, I suppose this is toodaloo until next review. Goodbye.